Good evening and welcome to SHOWstudio. We are delighted to be discussing Craig Green's first show outside London tonight. Craig and some of our team are in Florence, and we're going to do a very first for SHOWstudio. We're going to live stream it, but meaning that we live stream it with our own means. So George and Callum are sitting at the show right now. They're getting ready, and they're going to send us images and film. So we are the only one having access to a live stream, and we can hopefully, if the images are coming in the way we expect them, we will be commenting live. Before going into more details, I had the great luck and fortune to be able to talk to Craig on the phone yesterday, so I have a little bit of insight. But before that, since I have an amazing student panel, and everybody knows that usually student panels are my favorite, I will let them introduce themselves. Can you please say your name, what you study, and where?
Hi, I'm Angus. Study business at London School of Economics.
Hi, I'm Andy. I study fashion design at the University of Brighton.
I'm Randa, and I've just finished my menswear degree at CSM.
And I'm Florence, and just like Randa, I finished my degree at CSM, but in knitwear.
So you two will probably not be invited back to our student panel.
Bye. Panel.
Last minute.
Yes, and also we're very lucky to have two of our students, Flo and Andy, who worked with Craig Green.
Yes.
You both interned with him. Can you say something about that?
I did his most recent show besides his Pity. It was quite interesting because he just moved into a new studio, everything's fresh. It's so interesting seeing how kind of like the team mentality works, because Craig's design really is a team effort. Collaborations with Davis Curtis Ring and kind of just the whole studio is such a nice atmosphere and such a collaborative kind of vibe that I really think shows in the way that he designs.
It's amazing how one feels that. I don't know. I have the impression that when you see people collection, you understand if they're happy or not happy, what kind of people they are. And I have met Craig, but it's obvious that he's a very nice guy. And
yeah.
So you can confirm?
Yeah, I can definitely confirm. No phones were thrown at anything.
Hello. How was your experience and what did you do there?
Well, my experience, I mean, I had a good time, but Craig, as much as he's really nice, he's quite shy, I think, and quite private. So for me, I guess I didn't really know what was going on. Like, I didn't know what the collection looked like until I saw it, kind of, like I was working on it, but we didn't get a lot of insight. Maybe for me, it was a bit difficult.
So what
maybe it was
actually practically you were?
I was sewing a lot. I have really good sewing skills. So I was kind of, like, it was when you started doing the puffy stuff, and they didn't really get the grasp on how to do it. So I just redid that one seam with different wadding, different fabrics, just to see like what was the best way to sew the final garments kind of thing. That was like the main thing we were working on. And then obviously sewing some of the final stuff as well, like day before the show, all these belts, making all those belts, finished 20 minutes before the show.
You learned, right?
Oh yeah, of course, like it's a lot of learning, but I just wish I knew a bit more about what was going on. But obviously, I think it was a different shape of the studio as well, because they were in a different room.
Okay.
So it's different.
We're at Saraband, so the small.
Yeah, so it was separate, but.
Well, it wasn't a very big space, so. It wasn't a very big space.
It wasn't big.
From one room to the other, no?
No, I mean, you wouldn't like try to snoop on Craig, you know? That would just be awkward. But like.
One thing that he told me, he said, yesterday, actually was today's Thursday, on Tuesday late evening, he said, I'm still changing things. So that's why he's very reluctant about talking about his collection, and I see you nodding, and what he's doing, because he keeps wanting more and thinking there's something better around the corner. And before asking you other questions, I would like to say a few words about what I know that it's going to happen tonight. First thing, when he was, so for those that don't know, Craig is this year's guest of PT Uomo in Florence, which means that the designer who's chosen is invited and everything is paid for. So he's really sponsored by PT, which is a very big honor. Other people like J.W. Anderson and Off-White and Undercover have been there before. So for Craig, it's the first time he shows outside of London, which is also a big deal because it's the first time he's outside of his home turf and where he's used to work. And he said that when they were looking for a location, they thought about finding something that they would have used here. So, you know, derelict factory, abandoned building, whatever. And then once there, he said, well, for God's sake, I'm in Florence. You know, why does it have to look like London? And so they said, let's go somewhere which is Florence, historically and beautifully Florence. And so they are going to show tonight at the amazing Boboli Garden, which are these garden behind the Pitti Palace, actually, which is literally in the center of Florence and is one of the most important places, venues in the city. And he said to me that he fell in love with it because it's not too manicured. You know, Italian gardens are usually very designed and very... Boboli, it's a little bit different. It was a private garden. It contains a lot of trees of different sizes, and he said I was attracted by the different sizes of the trees and the disorder of it, which made me think about what I had in mind, which was working with different perspectives. And so the whole collection will be a sort of a trompe-l'œil to let people have different perspective and do what they wanted. But before going into the collection and before seeing it, I want to say a few words about the installation that we're going to see. So they, I'm now saying everything that it's supposed to be secret, but I think
Just get it out there.
So nothing bad can happen. But anyway, they build wire structures on which they hanged big pieces of black cloth, but not floating. They're, you know, fixed. They how do you say, straight. And so he said that, I want to use his words, he wanted to give a twist to the venue, and with the wire structures and the black clothes, he wanted to change its perspective. The installation is blocking out squares of the venue, and it's creating big sections and gap in between which one has to focus the view. In other words, what he was explaining to me is that when you block out the view, then you impose a gap in which you see things. And he said, so that is where people will find their perspective. But actually, people will see model walking, and I hope we will see it, walking around, and they will see them through those gaps in between the clothes. So anything that you find interesting or ready to comment?
I mean, I'm trying to picture it.
Yeah.
Craig's such a London institution, and everywhere he's shown has been such a kind of functionalist, brutalist space. It'll be really interesting to see a collection kind of in like a hazy sunset or in kind of a natural light at all, because his work's...
I don't think it will be completely natural light because it's 1 hour ahead, so it probably sunset is happening right now. So they will probably, I mean, they will need lighting, but I guess that before it starts, the light will be spectacular.
Yeah.
Well, it's more like romantic.
Magic hour, sorry?
Yeah.
It's more a bit like romantic, because I think like this clothes are still a bit vulnerable, kind of.
Well, he used the word romantic, but as Andy says, there's something brutal about the wire structure, you know, the metallic wire and the black cloth, you know, it's just...
I think that might be him trying to bring
London into the nature. And
but the contrast is also found in this collection. Like it's like harsh and utilitarian, but it's also like stuff hanging and the colors and
it
the
touches on this like
craft.
dark light a lot. Like so obviously the blocked parts.
Yeah,
we can see a little bit of it already, thanks to our Georgie and Callum.
I think he's very good at this sort of yin and yang balance, where he obviously knows he's going to be showing at a garden. He wants to introduce some elements of sort of artificial element, I guess, to sort of Yeah, as she said, it runs deep in his work. You can see contrasting elements often presented artfully together. It's masculine, but it's also sensual. It's vulnerable at the same time. So I think the set, from what you've described, I think pretty matches.
It's that, yeah, that's very well said.
True to
I agree.
That's quite interesting in a way as well, because obviously Craig's being stopped more and more frequently and shot more and more frequently on females. So it could almost be the romanticism of the kind of garden could be a reflection on the fact that perhaps his work is being viewed by others as slightly more feminine, as in styled on women, sold in women's kind of section.
Well, as we know that one of his great successes is that his clothes are coveted by women and worn a lot by women. So what you said, you know, this contrast between creating a fashion that is dedicated to men and it's rather masculine, but then works really, really well on a woman, which is the real, I think, which is the real thing about gender blurring. You know, it's not, it wasn't meant, but it just happened spontaneously. I don't think, was it meant?
I don't think
Ever? I don't think so.
To be unisex?
Yeah.
to be like be worn by women.
It's menswear. It's just people, female, like women are still attracted to it.
But it's still got those menswear structures with feminine touches, which he probably wasn't considering while designing or making. But females are attracted to that. When I was working at Machine A, you know, you still have females coming and looking at the garments and buying. You know, they're quite. Some of the pieces are quite not flamboyant, but quite out there.
Kind of, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty.
Strings everywhere. You're like, ooh.
Yeah, they appreciate the beauty.
Uniform. I mean, not uniforms. How do you say? You know, sorry, help me.
Utilitarian.
The utilitarian. Thank you. Where it's not that feminine at first sight, but then when you try it on, it works perfectly on a female body, right?
Yeah, I think his work is very clever in a sense that, yes, it's uniform, but at the same time, it gives the wearer the possibility to do whatever, to wear it in a very versatile way. For example, back in Few Seasons, there was these jackets with, it's sort of patched together, tied with strings, where if you loosen it, it looks like sort of a slit. So I think it's, for some looks, if you wear really short shorts with a trench coat and you untie the strings over that, it will look quite sexy, that it looks like a slit. So I think the reason why I love Craig Green, the pieces from it, is because how versatile and how, like, you can wear it to an office if you tie everything just the original way, because the shape is quite, a jacket is a jacket. Yeah. But if you depends on your mood, if you like to go on a date and look a little bit more cheeky, you can twist it to wherever you want, however you want.
Great. That's love it.
Another thing that it's interesting to notice, it's very recognizable without being stuck in a look, but it's very Craig Green. And one thing that it's obvious to me is that whenever I see graduate collections or student collection, and if they're menswear, I mean, you can't escape Craig Green. It's everywhere. He is everywhere, and it's not only a strong inspiration. Sometimes I want to tell these kids, don't do menswear if you cannot get away from Craig. And I was telling that to him the other night, and he said, oh, I guess it's a compliment, and he was laughing. I said, it is, but your inspiration is so strong that these poor kids, they can't free themselves of it. I don't know, your menswear students.
I agree.
Tell me if you had this experience.
I mean, I remember when I was in first year, my teacher, Sue, bless her, told me, if you're looking at a collection that was inspired by a rhino, why the hell are you looking at that collection? Look at the bloody rhino.
She's told me that.
Same teacher, same line.
Yeah. I had to be tutored because I couldn't do research.
If you look at a collection, say again, that it's inspired by a rhino,
then why are you looking at the collection? Why are you looking at that designer? Why are you not looking at the rhino? Why
that's
you?
What I think what makes Craig so kind of different, because he doesn't necessarily have a rhino. Like, there's never a kind of a starting point.
True.
There's no rhino.
And that's the difference between being very good and being good. Or whatever. And one thing he said to me about what we're going to see, you know, this idea of perspective, and I don't want to go too much into the description of the collection because it would be ruining it. but I want to say that he talks very much about, he says, reality is always much scarier than your dream. He said it's about hope and heaven, and as much you have that in mind, it can never be reality. Well, that's quite obvious, but what he was saying is that even if you watch a horror movie, you know, and that's a little bit of a dream because it's a movie, it's not reality, and you're freaking scared, it will never be as scary as reality. So he says, I want to create doors, and he says, I will try to do it, and you will see how via the wearer of this collection towards something better. So, but he said it's not really spiritual, it's about trying to have a different perspective and find a way to go to somewhere less scary and better. So it's very interesting because this black cloth, these doors, I mean, they actually create these gaps, can be seen as doors as well. And so again, you know, the inspiration is not a painting or an artist or another designer, it's something in his head, it's something that belongs to his fantasy.
I think that's the...
You can't copy that because it's
Emotion.
It's personal as well.
It's the fashion student dilemma, though, isn't it? Well, art student in general, of having most designers that I've kind of interned for or worked with or whatever, there isn't necessarily, you don't need a starting point, you don't need a full story behind your, of one specific point. And I think Craig's the kind of masthead for someone that takes inspiration from so many various kind of like outlets and things and puts it forward to make such an eclectic and such a kind of original collection, which I think is something that sometimes in education you struggle with because they do prefer you to have a solid...
to tick the boxes. But I think it's very rare when you do find these designers who are able to create such, you know, they bring their visions to life where it's there, for example, in fashion, when it's inspired by something so abstract or just from their mind. And it's so hard to be able to visually represent that.
Absolutely.
But when it's done so well and so beautifully, and it's something so unique to the person because you ask them, like, where's this from? Where's the references? And
that's why when you see this collection that tends to mimic his work, it doesn't look authentic because it's not only about, you know, picking the same color because you thought it was gorgeous. It's about trying to go into someone's head.
It's much deeper than just fabrics and silhouette.
Because he said to me another very interesting thing here. He said that he was looking at a photograph of a woman with a white dress, and he said, in the photograph, he didn't give me names or artists, and I don't know if it's someone's photographs or something artistic, but in the photograph there is a man following, he said there is a figure following the woman, and this figure, because of the angle that the photo was shot, looks like a halo, and he said that for me was magic, and so it's again, you know, a different perspective. I saw, first of all, he said, someone who follows you is scary. It's terrifying. But actually, because of the angle, it looks like a halo. It looks like something magic, and magic can be beautiful. So it's very interesting to, you know, all these different ways of reading reality. Then, as you said, it's in his head, and what comes out as a garment can only come out from one person, right?
I think he does it the best, this balance of real fantasy, of having these real clothes, but then also having these sculptures that he has, which kind of like represent his, you know, continuous narrative.
There's sculptures here. There's going to...
Of course.
And they have
it's got to be.
a big meaning. Do you want me to tell you about the sculptures?
Go on.
Or we want to see them first?
Ooh. I want to see it.
Oh,
I want to see it.
Good.
Eager beavers.
Well, I don't know. It's not starting yet. So what do we want to say? One other thing that I think it's important to say about Craig Green is that he's very good at giving us fashion. And you can tell me about your experience at Machine A selling Craig Green. He gives us fashion that is very relevant. It's very new and unique, as we said. Yet it's wearable. And so, you know, commerce and innovation can go together without one cancelling the other off, right?
He's almost created his own uniform, if you like, a wearable uniform that he's got his own following or audience that will come to Machine A to see purely for his garments, for his looks, and they know what they are expecting. You know, they come.
So they come in and say, "Can I see the next?
Yeah.
The last."
Exactly. They go, you know, where's the jacket with the strings?
Yeah.
Where are
That's the
the classics? And some they come asking to see what's new and what haven't they seen. I think it's interesting to see that he actually even has this strong following that come into the store purely just for Craig Green. And I think that's what's so special about his brand.
Do they come for like the more showpieces as well? Like, do people come and request that, or they just really request like the core brand, like the big sellers? Like, oh, they're like, oh, is there a carpet?
I found
You know?
when I was selling, the showpieces were more sold to. It was not expected. Like when I was just working there.
They sold them all the time.
It would sell, yeah.
Straight up.
Like Craig Green sold so well.
Like, which pieces did you have? Like, did you have a carpet? That's I want to know if you had a carpet.
I think at one point they must have had the carpet garments.
They're all in like the Met now, though, aren't
I
they?
had this similar question before doing this panel. I sort of want to know actually which collection, like the seasonal one or the core collection, is more well received. So I went to Machine A, and also I went to Selfridges to ask.
You're good. You're very well prepared.
Yeah, so I think it really, the answer really reflects the idea that different customer base sort of goes to different stores. So for example, Machine A, it's known for its sort of incubator of the new up-and-coming emerging designers. Customers who go there are actively looking for sort of the creative bit of stuff. So that's why I guess it makes sense, whereas the customer that's going to Machine A is prepared to be looking out for the seasonal, more experimental stuff. Whereas when I was at Selfridges, the sales said it's definitely the core collections that sell better.
Yeah.
So there is a core collection that is repeated season by season?
Yeah, I think it's like a capsule thing.
In different fabrics, though.
The workwear jacket, like they reuse the same like elements every season, or like T-shirt with like this.
That's also very smart
You gotta make the money.
Moneymaker.
strategy.
At first, I was quite surprised when they say they're going to launch a core collection. It's because it's still a very young brand, I would say, and like
very successful.
yeah. So I was really surprised.
Got requests from your retailers, right?
Yeah, so
I think in terms of construction as well, it's a stylist's dream because so many of his pieces involve kind of bits and bobs you can take out. You can relace the lace pieces. A lot of the kimonos have kind of certain drawstrings you can work with. Nothing's particularly overly shoulder padded, tailored, so it does work on both bodies. So I think he's kind of cornered the market in such a way that it's flattering on anybody. You can treat the garment in a way to make it suit every individual, which I think is the most brilliant thing you can do as a designer.
It's not difficult to wear, actually.
No.
And what about sizes? Does he do very small sizes for women, or
No.
it's on demand, or
I'd say
they have to be women that are big enough to wear the smallest men's size?
Yeah, but
Thing is,
I got small stuff, and it's perfect for my frame, and I'm about
You're quite small.
8 or
Yeah.
10 UK.
but they're adjustable. Most of the garments were, you know, elastic. You've got
exactly, yeah.
so
It kind of poses
Very
an
smart.
interesting question of, so as in somewhere like Dover Street Market Machine A, it's kind of all displayed in the same section, whereas somewhere like Selfridges, it's displayed in the men's department and then displayed in the women's department in smaller sizes.
Is it?
Which,
Yeah.
which poses quite an interesting debate on is there a stigma against necessarily buying men's clothes? Is there a stigma necessarily against buying women's
I think it's
clothes?
just
I think it's more of a sorry.
shopping, you know.
Well, you know, it's a big store and they probably know their client. I mean, I think Selfridges they were the first to create a genderless section or floor. And didn't they have Craig there?
I think so. I remember that it had a lot of beige. I remember the setup. There was a lot of.
But I also think, you know, it's because that's it. You know, they have clients and that's the way of selling. And I think it was quite smart to put Craig in the women's section. I don't know if they have to ask for permission, but why wouldn't he give it, right?
Yeah.
But I think if you're a woman, you're not going to switch floors. Like, it's just to make more money.
But it's also a push to the women, though, because you know that it's going to sell to men. So if you put it in the women's section, either way, men will either come to the women's section and be like, I want that Craig.
It's in both.
And then you have, no, but also like if it wasn't in the men's section,
if it would just
I feel like it's like a push for women to...
Yeah, but most men probably wouldn't go to the women's section to buy a jacket, even if it's Craig green, right? While I think there are more women that wouldn't mind going to a men's section and look for
more
Craig
than
green.
the other way.
What about Machine A? Was it displayed on both sides? Isn't it one side men and one side women?
Yeah, we have one side women's wear and one side men's.
Exactly.
It was with the men's wear.
Yeah.
But then
With
I think...
regards, sorry.
No, that's all right.
With regards to like the suffragist point, I see your point, but I think sometimes I wouldn't read too much on that in the sense that it's a matter of efficiency, I guess, when it comes to having it split. I guess because if it's on the women's floor, then women tend to like to do it like a quick round, or obviously there are really like those fashion lovers who would go to every floors, but suffragists is a really like catered towards sort of a mass audience. Like some of them would just out of convenience would prefer to have a look at this stuff in one floor, and so it's like an efficiency thing. Even though I do agree that there is stigma in terms of it's easier for women to go to men's section to buy things, whereas if you're a guy, you go to women's.
So what's the stigma for a guy to go to women's?
I don't think there's. In my personal opinion, I would have seen it kind of. I think the genderless section was probably one of the brilliant things that Suffragist has done. I'd love to have seen Craig's stuff sold in the genderless section. And I don't think Craig necessarily, when he designs for a Craig man. I think he designs for a kind of
humanity.
Yeah, he designs for
community,
human
an ambience,
people
kind of like
animals with two legs.
And I think that it's absolutely brilliant that, like, you know, if a brand's buying your stuff for two different departments, then you're not going to say no.
Yeah.
So I completely agree on your point of convenience.
I don't even think that in Craig's head there's this problem or stigma. I mean, he's a menswear designer that happens to be loved by women. Great, right? But I don't think he's sitting there thinking, oh, I have to think boobs or, you know, a smaller waist, or as you said, he's adaptable, it's quite easy to wear. So I don't know. You know, there are some men's designer, more classic, that you said, oh, can I have a smaller jacket? And I said, oh, no, this is cut for a man. And so, no, you can't. And I think that's disappearing. What do you think? I mean, you're the designer. I'm just
Greg also works
client.
from the same classic shapes, like every season. Like he works, like he keeps
that work,
like the block. Like he's got like one block, and then he'll like adapt the block for each season. So it's always gonna fit more or less the same way. So you know every season is gonna look good. If it's been looking good on the woman, it's gonna keep looking good on the woman. It's
what do you mean by the block? I mean, there is something
like when you make
like
when you make your pattern, like you start with like a block, or like he's got his basic patterns, and then like you'll work from those to create like the new designs. So you always know that it's gonna be the same shape in the initial. So like obviously it's gonna keep looking good, like on either gender if it looks good.
Can you, as a young menswear designer who has worked actually on his thing, can you detach yourself from that block that works so well? I mean,
I don't work from blocks.
Sorry?
I don't work from blocks personally. I go like this.
Yeah. So I'm a bit more tailored in terms of
depends on your style.
Are you very much inspired by what Craig has or what he taught you?
I think what I learned at Craig was more towards the marketing side. Craig's an absolute marketing genius. And
really?
Yeah, in my opinion.
We were talking about the campaigns before. We can see if we will have time to discuss that too.
Yeah, as in the campaign, everything's cohesive. As in what you're saying, the blocks. He chooses fabrics that corresponds with his main line to put into his core line. So it feels, when you're buying something from Core, say SS19, whatever, it feels like you are buying a piece from the show.
Yes.
But it also is part of the Core line, so you know it's cut from the same block, you know it's the same shape that you know and love, but it does have a piece of now, it has a piece of modern.
But are there pieces that are not produced, that don't go into production from his shows, apart from the sculptures? What happens to sculptures, by the way?
Oh, they get.
I think they keep them.
Yeah. Are there pieces that are not going into production? Did you ask?
The one in spring, summer 17, there was the 3 consecutive blue ones that I was very into. One of that's really cropped.
Yeah.
I was trying to hunt that down everywhere. And then I don't think any, like even for matches, I don't think they ever sold it. So I do think there are pieces that weren't
That are not going to.
But obviously, I don't know the
Yeah.
Most things, I'm not sure your experience, but most things I notice, nearly everything does get a kind of wearability treatment to it post-show. So everything that
you gotta change
they
it.
adapt it to. That happens in most brands.
Yeah, so it is.
I think you're done after the show, and then they're like,
No, that's when it starts. That's when the fit models come in and things become shorter, longer, wider, whatever.
There's so many kind of things. Like there's so many kind of a
There's
lot of
some
this stuff
I
involves.
worked on the collection with the like proper carpets, that relates together, and I don't think those got produced. Like I kind of really doubt that. Maybe they sold some of the original ones, but
some of them are on display with the Met at the minute. The
bodies or the Met thing?
Bodies, heavenly bodies.
And I think from a retail point of view, it's very smart in the sense that when I was looking through the rails of his clothes, I'm not sure if it's a deliberate thing, but the clothes did not labeled deliberately whether it's a core collection or a seasonal collection. And in the 2 stores that I went, it's sort of like mixed together. So it complements to your point that I think he tries to put it in the same, he tries not to differentiate it purposefully to tell the customer this is the core, this is a seasonal one, which I think it's a nice move.
Yeah, while you were talking, I was wondering, does anybody label clothes by season?
No. It's just.
But I mean.
Or the label, the store label, no.
No, I mean in the back. So when you're buying it, you sort of look at the labels. Or some people would ask, oh, I want the new season ones, or you want like discounted like last season ones. But then the racks. The core collection are like mixed with like the seasonal ones. That's what I was trying to refer to.
Yeah, it comes out all at once, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's kind of smart.
Yeah.
I think he must by this point.
Of course it is. I'm interested in because it's not starting yet, and I'm so afraid that Georgie's phone will die. The battery.
No, don't say that.
Portable charger.
Anyway, I'm interested in what you were saying about him being a marketing genius. I mean, we all have seen his campaigns that are spectacular, and as Nick were discussing with us before, they don't look like anything else. And again, they probably come from his imagination and that fantasy that he says it's always better than the reality, etc., etc. Anything you can offer to us that you've seen from inside?
We were there. Craig's got a long-term collaborator called David Curtis Ring, who does all of his sculptures for him. And
called David
Curtis Ring?
Curtis Ring, yeah.
And he kind of created for his most recent editorial kind of shoot these huge sculpture pieces that he then set on fire.
They were in the last campaign.
Yeah, of course, it was his last campaign. And they're the most immense, kind of beautiful things you've ever seen in your entire life. And
How big was it?
Massive.
Like from the screw to the screw?
Do we have time to maybe show the latest campaign? If you go in Craig advertising, that's the first, that's the one made by Nick. It's the one just above. With the sculptor, pieces of the throne. Not that one, not that one, that one. Thank you.
Yeah, there's an even more recent one where...
the fire one.
The burning one, she meant.
Just write fire.
Yeah,
that's what I did.
I don't see it here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that one, perfect.
Like to have a campaign that effective for a fashion brand with no models in it, that's pretty impressive.
It's just incredible.
But I think that's what, like his campaigns don't, it's not like a kind of lookbook campaign. It's like campaigns that translate the vibe more than the clothes. Like he's not trying to sell. Yeah, he's not trying to be like, oh, look where my pocket is. Cool. It's like that's my vibe. Like this is my emotion.
I think, but that's why he's so successful. You know, apart from the fact that the product is obviously good, but that's what I always say to people. It's if you want to tell a story, we don't need to see what we see anyway. You know what. You go to a store and you see it, or you go on Net-a-Porter and you see it, or Mr. Porter in this case. You need to understand what's behind it. You need to give me a vibe that makes me belong or not to your tribe or whatever, you know. And that's why he's so successful. I think that's why people, as you said, they come in and you know they are the Craig Green tribe and they want a little bit of piece of his mind. You know, I'm so excited to see this thing that it's not. So will we have the music when it starts? We will. Great. I mean, it's night is falling, so I think
maybe they're waiting for that. Maybe they're waiting for it to be dark.
Well, I have a little bit of an insight here as well. He's very much, and I think it's now. He's very much interested in that 10 minutes in between.
Dusk.
Yeah, but it's in Florence, it's blue. So it's in between sunset and night, which is dusk.
Good blue.
But it's quite well known there, and especially in nature, it's really bluish.
Yeah.
And in Rome as well. I lived in Rome for a while. There is this moment, I had this office on the 7th floor, and I had this amazing view, and sometimes I was staying late just to see that moment. It's amazing, and that's what he wants. And it's pretty blue now,
It looks radioactive right now.
It looks radioactive, yeah.
I don't know if that's just the video. I've never been to Florence, so I don't know.
I've been.
So I think it's any minute now. It's really waiting for that moment, and
Sorry.
and yeah. So we have to keep this alive, guys. So.
But also again, with the campaign, it's this. Just going back on that, it's that whole theatrical element that he keeps alive, and I think those are the elements that he pops up every now and then to kind of tell his story. It's like the fact that he can just burn that amazing sculpture like it's nothing, like it's just like dang, you know?
I was actually quite surprised because I feel like the campaign image itself didn't really show how big it actually is. I think I saw it from his business manager's Instagram account, Angelo, that
You've got
backstage.
the deepest intelligence in all of this. I'm impressed.
I saw the backstage, like the behind-the-scenes outtake, I guess, of the set, and the structure was like humongous. So I was
trying to get them down the stairs was interesting.
I was quite surprised from that as well.
I really like the water one. It makes me feel emotional. Iconic. Like I feel like I'm like it's
beautiful.
Like you don't see anyone's face.
No.
And you feel like
it was in a swimming pool, wasn't it?
Like a shallow.
Because they had to hire dancers because the water was so cold. The dancers were the only people that would be willing to kind of.
Is it in a studio? Do you know?
No, it was in a swimming pool.
So say again, they had to.
So they hired dancers to do the shoot for this. This is.
I think that's when I was there, but I didn't get to go do it. I was sewing. I was sewing my sleeves.
So you had to stay in.
Yeah, but I think it was a hard day for the people that went there. So
yeah, a lot of throwing buckets of water at people, I believe.
Oh Lord. Yeah, but it's raw emotion.
I have a question.
Yes.
When I read the reviews or watch the panels, often people who are lucky enough to go to the show often expressed how emotional it makes them, and some of them even cried. So you were at one of them. Would you mind sharing where this sort of emotion comes from?
I have to admit, I didn't cry at the Craig Green show, but I came out saying this was just phenomenal and not being able to talk. But if we want to, I mean, I shouldn't, but I cried once, really cried at a show, and it was a Lee McQueen show, Alexander McQueen, and it was the famous pyramid where the hologram made Kate Moss appear, which, by the way, was filmed before by Nick. And even if I was working with them and I had seen bits of it before and I saw the show twice, because it was so, people wanted to come, we had to split it in two, I cried twice. So some things can get you emotional, and but I think again, you know, it's about what are we looking at? again, it's about honesty and reality. And I think Craig is a good example of someone who can get too emotional because, first of all, it's very beautiful. And I remember the time where I came out, and I never know what season and whatever, but it's quite recent. I came out and I said, this was just phenomenal. I don't have anything else to say. It's also because of the beauty, not only of the beauty of the whole presentation and the silence, because it makes people silent. You know, there is this magic and this spirituality to it that, admit it or not, is there. But also the beauty, you know, his colors and the grace and the music. And it's a whole holistic thing. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and that complement the collection. So it's not, I think,
it is a running
one other thing that I say, sorry I interrupted, but sometimes you go to shows where people put up some spectacles and they're completely disconnected from the clothes, from the collection, and you're like, why? So they're not complimenting the clothes, but they're distracting. While what Craig does very well, and Lee was the master of that, is exactly that. So whatever goes around never distracts you from the collection, it enhances it, and that's what makes you emotional. Did I answer?
Yeah, definitely.
I think it also depends on your reference system. Like, obviously, someone might feel a lot more emotional towards McQueen. Well, if someone maybe comes from a different type of family, maybe like more workwear or like lower class, like maybe once you see all the certain elements, like you feel more emotional. Like, because I mean, some people don't cry for the same reason. So like,
I completely agree, but I think the emotion at a show, at a fashion show, doesn't really come from the level of luxury or not, or for whom you're designing. It's really not the consistency, but the fact that it makes sense.
Yeah, straight up.
And the fact that it's real. It comes from their heart, from their brain, from their soul, and not from something that they want to do to impress someone or for a line that went in the press. Do you see what I mean? And I think Craig is probably one of the most honest in that.
I think Craig does have a running narrative as his work as well, so perhaps if there's no tears this time, there might be one next time. Because there is definitely a functionality that is passed through all of his seasons, that is kind of like inherited by each season.
I don't think that will ever change. I don't see how. I mean, that's really, as you say, it's narrative, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Well, it just gets better, really.
Yeah.
Like you see like he just develops himself instead of like.
And it probably also, even someone who's a little bit of a genius grows and gets more and more self-assured and more convinced on the rightness, is that a word, of what he's doing, you know, or she's doing, and so even he's growing.
Yeah, it's good, in a good way.
What time is it in the meantime?
We're almost there, look at the sky.
Yeah. Speaking of confidence, I think one point that I really admire him is that, especially for the first 3 seasons after Man, he had these collection that was like so well received. I think spring, summer 15, and the next 3 seasons. And then he sort of got more and more criticism by the press saying that it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like...
Or the best one get the same criticism.
Yeah, I think
don't know if you noticed.
It's very unfair because press obviously wants change and something new so that they can write about, whereas buyers and even customer wants consistency, and especially in the age of like social media where there are so many brands available for customers, it really takes time for designers
to create.
For both, like for both customers to recognize the sort of the house code and also for the designer to make an impression. So I guess I admire Craig in the sense that he is smart enough to block out what to listen and what not to. So I think. Yeah,
I also think that that's fading a little bit. That criticism is always the same, because I think the most successful ones are those that have a point of view and they create variation of it, but you recognize them. They have a point of view. The one that scatters from one thing to the other are those that haven't found themselves, I think, and they try to be someone else.
Yeah, and you can tell.
Authenticity.
You can tell.
Authenticity. You can tell, you know, there are some designers who every season it's a completely different collection and they're still trying to find themselves, whereas Craig Green, he's obviously got his his uniform, his
Yeah, and then
thing.
there are enough people in the world that still want one of his classics. So
Exactly.
It's nice to see him kind of test his salt with his collaborations as well. Kind of Moncler. It's nice to see him put his hand to a brand that has a certain different design signature and things.
that's a very good example because yet it was so Craig Green.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So it was done to complement another brand, so it needed to be, but it was so Craig Green. Only he could have done that.
It stole the show. That
Definitely.
at Moncler. It was unbelievable. The huge kind of like installations they had behind those big bellowing pipes.
It was just amazing.
Even the lighting and just the way they showed it, it showed the sculpture, it showed the silhouette, it showed everything so beautifully. You didn't need to see the details of how it was sculpted together or how it was made. You could just appreciate the beauty and how well made it was.
Yeah.
Also relates to his collection, like you could put that almost in his runway and it would still work.
Yeah.
Like it's really, it colorates to like his collections. Like it didn't go too far into Moncler.
No.
You know?
Angus?
This is a very nice testament to his ability, and I'm sure big corporate firms seeing all these are very tempted to maybe hire him for
When that was, I wanted to go into that before and then I forgot. Do you think that he's going to be hunted down by some big group?
Personally,
Do you know him better? Do you think he would want to?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, I think it's more collaborative than, because
He probably
obviously his
received some
identity is so
offers.
strong. Like he's so deep into his own aesthetic, as like we've been talking about. So I don't know, like which brand could he really like?
Yeah.
Or maybe you know, there's not only hiring you to be the creative director of Louis Vuitton, there's also LVMH buying your brand. But then, you know, I don't want to mention them, but I've seen some talents that have changed. They could also be the kiss of death. You know, it could be, I mean, J.W. Anderson, hello, it could be your way to heaven, but it could also be hard.
back then when the Louis Vuitton men's were sort of people were guessing, I thought Craig was one of them because the idea of a traveler is always very consistent in his own collection. But personally, I think it's quite selfish in a sense that I don't want him to do these stuff because it's going to spread himself too thin, and then I rather him to stay independent and sort of focus himself in doing what on his own brand. But that's just
yeah, I don't know any figures and numbers, but I think his brand is successful enough to be sustainable.
Yeah, I don't think he's worried in terms of
Are you always a little bit worried when you're at the beginning? You never know if this can hand or not. You have to be careful. Sometimes when you grow fast, it can be dangerous because you need, you know, when there is a lot of requests, you need the logistics, you need the production, you need the people to control that. So it is a constant worry, that's for sure. But I don't think his worry would be people don't want to buy me anymore, right?
He's chosen his collaborations really interestingly though, because he did Bjorn Borg, which was more kind of athlete kind of, and then he did Grenson for his most recent show, the one that I worked on. He did a collaboration with them, which is very kind of high, high level men's kind of shoes, and then he did Moncler, which is a very high kind of ski wear, sort of luxurious brand. So he's almost covered 3 different.
I thought that Moncler and Craig Green was probably the most obvious thing that could happen. Did I think about that? No. But when you're Moncler and you want the best designers of the moment to collaborate, you cannot not go to Craig Green. I mean, it's a marriage made in heaven, right? And it was very good. I loved also the Pier Paolo Piccioli version of the Handmaid's Tale, Moncler, big. But do we have an eye on the live Florence? We know it hasn't started yet. Are we sure? Okay. I just want to make sure that you have an eye on that. Yeah, and it's really night now. The blue hour is gone.
Looks beautiful.
And it looks very beautiful.
The collaboration, I don't know if you would class this as a collaboration, but my favorite was the fact that he got to work on the costumes for the Alien movie.
Oh, so good.
Did you see? But
I think something is happening here, right?
after that.
And the live stream is iconic. Very intense.
It's very dark now, so lights will be soon on.
This is just the whole show.
The sound.
It probably will not be easy to see, but you have to pay attention to the fabrics, to the processed fabrics that he's going to propose.
Is that a hint?
Mm-hmm. You didn't want to know before, so. Hopefully he's coming back towards us. He's not.
Oh wow. It's
Oh, but that's like neon.
outline of the body.
But that's
What are those?
that's not
exterior?
bad film. That's what it's supposed to be, and you can tell me what it is, but then I will tell you what it is in reality.
We need those pics.
Yeah, come
ASAP.
past us.
Loving the music though. So intense. Berghain.
You can see them also when they walk further away.
Yeah. It looks like piping.
It looks like what?
Piping.
It's like pipelines, yeah.
There, they're coming back. Good, we see them here. Amazing view now. Look at this. The famous halo. This is a sculpture.
So like the guy behind,
There's a guy behind that
shadow
creates
almost.
this silhouette, which is like a halo.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
I don't know if you saw on the sculpture on the left, you've got like these, it's like red rope. It's like quite similar to the red.
It's very red and white, right? Am I seeing correct?
See?
Yeah.
Sculpture.
It's a bit off-white. It's not really white.
He puts fins on the sides of things a lot to produce a kind of silhouette effect as well. He did that last season where he had kind of
Yes. There's his signature, those strings.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Is it fringy? That's really no, those are the fins thing.
Sorry, what did you say?
I thought it was fringy. I love fringe, but I thought it was a bit maybe not right for Gregory.
I love these.
Ooh,
Look at this. Look at those sculptures. It's incredible.
Yeah.
How is it worn?
They
though?
really create what we were explaining before, right?
Yeah.
It's nice to see the sculptures more integrated into the outfits as well, because usually they're kind of like a thing you carry from.
Yeah, no, they're really following
Yeah.
the body, the person.
It's kind of like a flying squirrel, that one.
Yeah, it's stuck between the legs, right? It's like a skirt.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the fabrics because here I can see it a little bit. It's not easy to say, but he said that he created this process with the fabrics where he layered 3 types. So it started with a cheap lycra, which is the same that they use for football jersey, printed, and covered with a layer of printed organza with the same print, and covered with a layer of printed mesh with the same print. And he said that creates a 3D effect. But he said there's no technology here. It's exactly what I said. So it's layering 3 fabric that to the eye look as if it was using a 3D technology, which actually it's not real. Again, perspective.
I want to see this in real life.
I mean,
Sounds amazing.
very cool, as you say. So it says it imitates some 3D printing, and it also said that between that layering and the gaps in between where you see the print, it's like a pixelated image. And so when this morning we couldn't get the right image and it was very pixelated, I said, well, maybe that's what he wanted.
Do we know what the print is, or is it?
I can't see it enough, but we hopefully will get some photos in and maybe we can see better. But
Cool.
it's quite beautiful to see
In motion.
the stream like this, you know, the music and the shadows also of the.
Colours are great.
That was good.
Yeah, that was
I'm
amazing.
so happy that he's got some really eccentric
Bright
colours.
colours.
The mix of it is just.
I was wondering how a Craig Green collection would look in grass and trees, and actually,
And here we
it's
go.
really great.
Yeah.
Looks really great. It's beautiful. Look at the colors.
I think it's interesting you've also got these sculptures in the front, because I thought he was just going to leave it just as on the back. It's like following shadow.
Shadow can come from two sides, depending where the sun is.
It's nice to see that they've got the kind of fabric
He
manipulation.
also said that he wanted to give, looking at those garments, he wanted to give the vision of the static lines in an old TV set. Did you see that?
I think is it the same thing you talked about, the halo one?
Yeah, but when you then see from close and you can feel it, you notice layers of cotton stitched together and then acid washed.
Oh, cool.
I thought it looked like a neon at first. I thought it was like an actual neon, maybe.
The sculpture,
Yeah.
yeah.
As if it's like lights of
Look at
movies.
these coats, they're
Beautiful.
incredible.
That'll be the
We can't see.
historical and technological motifs. That'll be the technological.
Are you reading the notes? What, say again?
A similar combination of historical and technological motifs, and that looks almost like a circuit board on that coat there.
Yes.
The pixel static that he talks about, he's talking about like on the TV when it's got all those different colours.
Yes.
You can definitely pick up on that, on the neon garments. You can kind of see that little glitch.
It's so nice to
colour.
see it's quite rare at the minute to
It's
see
like
a multicolored.
it gives the impression of a moving vision, so you can't really fix the image.
Yeah.
It's nice to see he's not scared of colour as well.
No,
Definitely
yeah,
embracing
it's
it.
beautiful.
Because you also got those fabrics that are kind of out. It's not just sewn in, it's just left out for that extra movement.
I wonder what the historical motifs are.
This is being very beautiful. Look at that. It's like a cape that I see in the distance. Look at this.
My favourite. So far.
Is it tie-dye? Not tie-dye. Was it tie-dye?
I can't hear you.
Was it the tie-dye behind the sculpture? Is that,
I don't know.
is it tie-dye?
That one's
He
printed.
did the hand-painted stuff, didn't he, ages
I love
ago?
tie-dye.
Oh, we're losing it.
We're getting that pixel static glitch right
We
now.
had most of it, so
That's what he
it's
intended.
dramatic.
Wow, that was beautiful.
this
Wow,
this is too pixelated. It's quite fun, I must say, at this point.
I want to see carpets.
The sculptures are incredible.
But I also think these fabrics and these
Ooh, loud.
colors and these,
like that.
Yeah.
are they like capes? Like,
I think it's kind of the carpet thing, or like the
Like last
Oh, yeah,
season
like
with the
carpet,
poncho.
yeah.
yeah, the
Exactly,
carpet's
the
been.
ponchos,
I
yes.
mean, carpet is used loosely. I don't know how else to say it.
That's very. They did kind of ponchos with
Yeah.
loads of different bits of thread, like woven into them, so you could pull it into different kind of lengths and stuff. That was for the 2 seasons ago, I think.
Oh, it was last season.
It's the one with all the parrots.
Like the ones with the
They did the Paradise Parkers and
In 2 seasons.
the patchwork ones.
yeah.
Yeah, those are nice.
It's very religious, though.
That was
So
very
that's the
beautiful.
thing.
Catholic
Like
imagination.
robes.
Did you find it religious?
I thought those lasts.
The ponchos?
I felt that, yeah.
Maybe that's a historical.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to see probably some photos and maybe we see better shapes and prints, but I must say that we had a vision of it and it was pretty beautiful.
Very
Yeah.
useful.
I love how that tree's been
Thank you,
encased.
George and Callum. They can't hear me, but thank you
Yeah.
for giving us this stream. Let's see this finale now.
Oh, I hope he comes out and does a little wave.
I love seeing those guys walking
All
in the thing
together.
with gaps. There they come. Yeah, people seem to like it.
Yeah. Big fan.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, that.
God, the colours.
There is a lot of color.
It's amazing.
Those sculptures are incredible. Nice.
Beautiful.
Well done. We're not closing yet. We're uploading, but we're not closing. So, what do we think? Can you give me your first impressions?
I think it's quite the usual Craig style where each show he evolves but not revolutionize. So I like the fact that a little bit changes,
It's
but
an
it's
evolution,
still true
yeah.
to his own code.
Oh, look, we're getting
these are-
Callum's photos. We're so good at SHOWstudio. It's working with that tree, which is in a cage.
Wow.
But
I kind of like the irony of it.
That's very beautiful. That's a nice photo.
It's amazing how you can make just nature look so.
Beautiful.
It makes me think
Yes.
about the woman in white followed by a halo of a figure.
He's really depicted that image perfectly. Does it matter exactly how you describe that photo and seeing that sculpture? It's
That's
reflected
when
so
you can
well.
talk to the person who thought about that, and it shows that it's true. What he was saying, it's not just words; it's actually true.
Yeah.
I'm so intrigued by his use of colour in this season as well. It seems so...
It started very white, very subtly,
White and red.
white and red, and then
beige.
oh my god, it's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
There's the look with the emerald green with the clashing neon pink.
Yeah.
I love that.
I only regret that we can't really see. I mean, I don't know, maybe you, but I can't see that effect of the layered fabric on top of each other. But
Is that throughout the collection, or is that just some of the
he
garments?
said it. That was the main description. So I think that probably it's not one or two looks from the way he was telling me. Yeah. The photos are coming in.
I think the setting really lent itself well
Yes.
with his use of colour. I think the natural kind of surroundings were so necessary to add a kind of background to it.
Yeah, it is. And it is true, it's a little bit this dynamic between romantic and rough.
I'm not sure if I'm overreading it, but I could see different colors of light being used, as you can see with the sculpture tree one. It's like really bright white, whereas the ones that lights on the grass, it's more warm. And
It could absolutely be, yeah.
I feel like, not trying to jinx it, but I was trying to think if it rained, it would have a different vibe. It will add a little bit of like horror vibe to it, which could be quite interesting. I don't know.
So you wished it rained?
Yeah, I feel like it would be. No, I hope it's not on the clothes, but you get what the feeling
I can
would
tell you
be.
something. I don't think it was meant to be, because we were discussing this, and he said that also when I decided to do it outdoor, it's because for once that I'm not in London, I don't have to be worried about. And I said, but Craig, it's been amazing weather here for months. Martin Rose showed outside, and I don't remember who else. And actually, they were having thunderstorms every night. And it's been raining in Rome and in Florence. And he said, yes, the irony would be that, you know. And then I said, what happens if it rains? He said, well, we have umbrellas. That's all we can do.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, I hope it rains, because it gives a different...
The models of the Craig Green umbrella.
So, no, it wasn't meant to be happening in the rain, and it didn't, luckily. We don't have more photos coming in yet. No. Sorry?
I was just wondering if the shoes were in collaboration with Grenson again, or...
There's nothing about the shoes in the notes, right?
No.
And we didn't discuss shoes on the phone, so I...
Just show shoes.
I can't tell you, yeah. Well, it's quite late. I think we had more than an hour, so maybe we should let you and our audience look at the photos sent in a different way.
Yeah.
And shall we thank Craig with a round of applause and our team there doing a great job?
Thank you.
Thank you.